If you were crushed with a hydraulic press, would it be strong enough to press you into a tiny cube? Well, your body is mostly made of water, and water can't be compressed, so you would have to remove all of the fluids by drying out completely. Then you'd have to grind up your bones and organs into fine powder. Finally, you could crush it all together, turning an entire human into a dense little cube about the size of a football. He cut open Albert Einstein's skull and stole his brain during the autopsy. Next, he sliced it into hundreds of pieces, hoping to unlock the secret of his genius. Over the next 50 years, pieces of the brain was stored in basements, closets, and even car trunks. He gave some pieces to other doctors and researchers, and others were donated to a museum. But large chunks of Einstein's brain are still out there missing to this. It would take giant tugboats a month of constant pulling to put the continents back together. Then you would need 6.5 quadrillion tons of superglue and enormous meteors slamming into it at incredible speed just to squeeze it out. The force would push the glue miles into the cracks, covering the edge of every continent for over 60,000 miles. And the water would make the glue set quickly, leaving you with a massive super. The grenade was launched at the soldier, hitting him right in the chest. But instead of exploding, it somehow lodged inside his body and stayed intact. Now, somehow he survived and was rushed to the hospital. If doctors treated the wound like normal, the electricity used to seal the blood vessels could detonate the bomb. Instead, he used only hand tools to pull out the live grenade, and somehow everyone survived. If you crash into an electric pole and the line falls, you'll get electrocuted if you just step out of the car. That's because touching the car and the ground at the same time creates a circuit. This means the electricity will travel through the car and into your body as it tries to reach the ground. Instead, jump out with both feet together without touching the vehicle. Now, the ground around the car could still be active, and if you take regular steps, your legs could actually create another circuit. So keep your feet together, shuffle away slowly, and don't stop until you're far from the wires. They crept towards the house, keeping their footsteps light so they wouldn't be heard, all to steal a bucket of poop. You see, in Japan, poop was really valuable. Farmers needed it as fertilizer, helping crops grow faster. And people even traded their poop in exchange for food. Eventually, human poop became so valuable that thieves risked getting caught just. He was mad because he died in the game, so he researched the other gamer's identity. And after 7 months of stalking, he realized he lived just a few miles away. When he rang the doorbell, the man answered, and suddenly he pulled out a kitchen knife and stabbed the man in the chest. It missed his heart by less than an inch, and somehow the man survived. But the attacker spent 2 years in prison, all over a video game. He was shot 3 times after a fight broke out in a bar, but each bullet headed towards a different part of his uniform. One slammed into the wallet, another hit his pistol belt, and the third struck the flashlight on his hip, shattering it. But the gear managed to absorb the impact, and all 3 bullets were stopped. He walked away with only minor injuries. When you get stitches, a doctor threads a needle through your wound and pulls it tight to close the skin. As the stitches hold the edges together, the wound becomes inflamed as new cells begin to repair the tissue. Afterwards, connective tissues and collagens start to create skin. Then, blood vessels form to nourish these developing tissues, filling in the area. And over a few weeks, the wound will have healed together and the stitches are removed. If you shot a bullet at ancient armor, some people think it could actually stop the impact. But armor like chainmail was designed to block slashing swords. And plate armor was even better at deflecting strikes by spreading the blunt force across more area, lessening its impact. But these materials weren't very good at stopping arrows, which had enough energy to enter the armor. So a bullet would have no trouble going right through. The giant steel shovels slam into the ground in a circle around the trunk. Then they drive down deep, slicing straight through roots as they form a cone-shaped basket under the tree. Now, some roots are cut, but most are lifted inside the packed ball of soil. Then the hydraulics pull upward, raising the entire tree out of the ground. The spade carries the tree to its new spot, with the root ball still clamped tight inside the blades. The truck lowers the tree into place, and the shovels slide back out one by one, ready to keep. He licked the cold train track to see what would happen. The moisture on his tongue froze solid in seconds, fusing it to the rail. And when he tried to pull back, his tongue stretched but wouldn't tear free. His friends panicked, trying to yank it off, but they saw a train headed straight for them. They waved their arms, screaming for it to stop as it rounded the bend. And the conductor managed to slam the brakes just in time. He jumped down with a cup of hot water and poured it on the boy's frozen tongue, melting him. When a doctor gives you a shot, they can sometimes accidentally push the needle all the way through your vein, which ends up puncturing both sides. Once the needle is removed, it leaves 2 holes in the vein. And before the body can thicken the blood and seal these holes, it bleeds into the surrounding tissues. This leaked blood forms a dark, tender area under the skin, creating bruises and splotchy areas. It coils its body around the rat, and each time the rat exhales, the snake tightens. This is because sensitive nerves in the snake's skin feel the heartbeat inside the rat. When its blood is pumping, the snake squeezes longer and harder. But once the heart stops, the snake automatically stops squeezing. And this helps them save energy when they're killing their. If you somehow removed all of the blood vessels in your body and tied them together, you might think it would be about this long. But the human body has thousands of these tiny vessels that weave in and out of every body part. And with all of them combined, if you started in New York, your blood vessels would make it all the way to the Grand Canyon. It would go on to reach all the way across the Pacific Ocean, over Japan, Asia, and all of Europe. And not only would it make it all the way back to your starting point, but it would be able to make this trip 2 to 4 times over.